Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Shikishima, which may be a bit of a surprise. As you know, 6-gun battleships, really not my favorite. I was playing with MalteseKnight, which is another content creator that you should definitely go check out. Links will be in the description down below. But this ship is a full secondary build. I was just trying to copy whatever ship he was playing and have some fun with it. Maybe run a less than optimal build as well, just to have a good time. First off, this ship has pretty good range, and typically you're going to get nice damage thanks to the overmatch and the high alpha damage, if you hit. And we happen to get two citadels cross-mapping this Clausewitz. Secondary build, by the way. When was the last time you saw a secondary build Shikishima? Poor Clausewitz, first blood instantly. That is pretty rough to start things off. We do have ourselves arms race, so we're going to get some buffs here. And of course, we're just going to be pushing in with this ship. The secondaries aren't actually too bad on this ship, although probably not what you should be running in random battles. It's very hard to push in and make use of these secondaries these days, at least in the average match. But essentially, you have two Harigamos strapped to the sides of your ship here. And that's pretty good. You get 30 millimeters of pen base on these Harigamo turrets, and you can take IFHE to actually pen battleships as well. There's not any improved accuracy here, so it's not like you're going to do as well as a Schlieffen or a Libertad now. But these secondaries are going to do some pretty good damage in this match, as we're going to see. Shikishima, though, again, it's really not my favorite battleship in the game. There's mainly down to the accuracy of this ship. Yamato, with its 9 shells, I find performs just more consistently. Shikishima doesn't really gain much over Yamato in regards to main guns. The caliber increase doesn't really allow you to overmatch that much more plating. I think it gets up to 35 millimeters of armor, and there's very few cruisers in the game that have 35 millimeters. Really, it's that 32 millimeter battleship armor that we're really looking at here. And even though the reload is a little bit better, I like the volume of fire on Yamato a little bit more. Although, that said, both of these ships have some of the worst hulls in the entire game. The actual ship itself is pretty bad here. You got to give a reasonable amount of broadside to actually use all of your guns, and if you do shoot all of your guns, you're exposing the infamous Cheek Citadel. We'll look at that later, of course, if you haven't seen it, but if you know, you know. It is a very big weak point here. This ship is based on, well, Yamato that was released a long time ago. Those 2015 style ships. They have some weaknesses, of course. The more modern the ship, at least the more modern release in this game, typically the better off you're gonna be. And speaking of weaknesses, turret traverse here. One of the slowest turret traverses in the entire game when it comes to your main guns here. So getting rushed by a Shimakaze is potentially game-ending for you here. Fortunately, we have secondaries, and Malta did turn his turrets in time, so the Shima actually does go down, but gets one set of torps off. Not all three, surprisingly, so we get fortunate there. Malta takes the torp for us. Thank you very much. And now we can go push into maybe a Hanover, get a little bit of brawling secondary action going over there. Montana being a little bit broadside to us. Actually, don't lead that one quite enough, but we should do some okay damage into this guy. But I think Shikishima is probably a mid-tier reward for steel overall. I've looked at those steel ships, of course, earlier in the year. How do they do? I didn't rate Shikishima too highly. And the reasoning behind that is, again, it's so similar to Yamato. You can get a similar playstyle based on a free ship, just getting it in the tech tree. All you got to do is some grinding. Sure, it takes some time, but for your hard-earned steel, depending on how much clan battles you play, this playstyle you can basically get from a Yamato. Maybe not the secondary build, although that's of questionable value, let's be honest here. Already up to 80k in this one, and brawling a Hanover. Look at how much broadside we have to give, and I'm still not firing that rear turret. It's a bit unfortunate, I guess we'll say. And the secondary turret firing angles are also not great. So while we were looking at Libertad with this update and how insane those secondaries were, accuracy, damage, pen, range with the upgrades. A big point was also the firing angles, allowing to get most of your secondaries firing while still being fully angled. So you're not going to take massive damage. It's a big deal. I was even talking about that the other day in regards to Regulo, right? Where we're taking more damage while we're trying to get all of our guns firing. That's a weak point, and oftentimes is a signifier of a lower tier ship. At tier 10, we often get the most advanced ships, I guess not accounting for super ships, where we get all of our firepower at a reasonable angle. Hanover versus GK Preussen is a great example of that as well, actually, given that that ship can fire all of its guns without being, 45 degrees broadside or whatever. Now up to 130,000 damage. You're going to start to see some misplays here from us, specifically me, actually. Malta's going to play well. I was just laughing too hard that this was actually working. I couldn't believe it. I just threw this build together for a meme. But it's actually working. We're doing not too bad. Surely, though, broadside Zhao to 2 Shikishimas at 7 kilometers. What do you think happens here, guys? What do you think happens? Well, if I'm really pointing it out, you probably already know. Yes, the dreaded broadside cruiser tech, where you only take overpens. And it's not just me. Malta is also only overpenning this guy. The damage we have done to this guy is overpens. Look at that. He didn't manage to kill him there. We both only overpenned or got secondary damage on this guy. So maybe another use of secondaries. When the cruisers are at close range and broadside, at least the secondaries are going to give you some damage. I really hate that mechanic, but at least he died. Secondaries cleaning up some damage there. But yeah, I really dislike overpenning citadels. It's super frustrating as a Battleship player. Now, I wouldn't want to just direct change that so you don't overpen citadels and change nothing else, of course. Then cruisers would be, well, it would be even harder to play cruisers, let's be honest. I would want to change it so they take less damage when angled, but more damage when broadsides. I've always said that. That's kind of my want in this game. More consistent damage against those broadsides. Now, we're going to take some torps here from this Marceau. And honestly, I overly respected the torps, I guess, here, as we're going to see, trying to angle to them so we don't take too many. Shikishima's got decent torp protection, of course, but it only protects a very small portion of the ship. Again, I can show you that afterwards, but in angling to these torpedoes so much, well, we're broadside on to a Montana at 10 kilometers. Yep, that's his front guns, and rear guns nearly finish us off. So we're having a good time, I'm laughing, and then I lose basically all my health in 2 seconds. Another weak point of the old Yamato hull, of course, is a very above water citadel. Even Montana has been changed. That happened a while ago where that ship has a waterline citadel now. If you're a modern ship or you've been changed recently, you probably have a very difficult or less likely to hit citadel. Not so with Yamato hull. And even with full secondary build, we actually do get ourselves some decent reload on these main guns. In arms race, of course, we do have 2 buffs on our reload here, allowing us to get some decent DPM out. Republic is an excellent target to go after, of course, with that overmatch. The guns do hit pretty hard, I gotta say. When you pen and when you hit, essentially you're going to do damage. Torp protection hit is kind of the feature of Repub that allows you to not really take much damage broadside. But when you get those hits in the upper belt, superstructure, bow, stern with this ship, poor Republic doesn't really have much to do here. Just 10k like that, it takes so much damage, and that's really what you're counting on. The worst dispersion that the Japanese battleships have compared to the standard battleship formula, basically it means that worse vertical dispersion. The Japanese battleships have that unique trait of worse vertical dispersion, which makes them a little frustrating to play at times. That value isn't unfortunately told to us in port. You got to go to third-party websites. There's a lot of information you got to go to third-party websites for. Speaking of changes, that'd be nice if Wargaming would add a little more information, maybe in drop-downs, hidden menus, so it doesn't overwhelm most players. Now, Malta did outscore me there, so maybe this build isn't the way, but 46k from those secondaries, man. Not too bad. Much more than I was expecting. But even though this did work, I gotta say, do not run this build, guys. It's so bad. I just got pretty lucky with some of these salvos, especially that first Clausewitz shot. Absolutely insane to get that dispersion with a build that looks like this. I'm glad it worked out, though, honestly. I wish builds like this had more time to shine, where we could play at these closer ranges more and actually do it. Perhaps we're going to get more of those game modes back. Operations, certainly, you could run things like this. Although I'd be a little worried about taking massive damage to some of those bots with their, well, inflated HP pools and damage output. We certainly could die rather quickly with a Shikishima. Here was the build, of course. Very, very greedy for secondaries. This does allow us to pen 37 with these 100 mil secondaries and actually get 32 on the 155. So we do actually do pretty well on the secondary pen with the Shikishima in particular here. I ran concealment to try and get in range a little bit quicker, but probably fire prevention a little bit better. We got fortunate with island cover, allowing us to deal with ships one-on-one rather than exposing our ship to focus fire from the entire enemy team. That is always going to be a bit of a challenge. And the armor, of course. Pretty big pain point on this ship. Yamato style armor is pretty bad. 32 mil upper belt is a big weak point as well, allowing small caliber AP and HE, honestly, to get full pens here very, very easily. At close range, if you're in a DD, cruiser, whatever, just swap to the AP and aim up here. You know, you probably won't get through the belt to get citadels, but I mean, the pen values you get in here is so juicy. It is really, really important, as well as the bow. Notice the torp protection here only covers your citadel, and it doesn't even cover the entire citadel if I take away here. So citadel extends to here. That's that infamous cheek at this point, but you got a strong torp protection in percent, right? It reduces a lot of the damage, but only here. And, well, you got a lot of the ship exposed up front and in the back, so maybe it covers a little over half of the ship, but when you're angling like this, I mean, a lot of the torps are going to land here, so you do take full torp damage a lot of the time. And again, that citadel angle, you can see a bit of a weak point there, where if you're angled like this to shoot all your guns, get all your secondaries firing, you're very exposed here. And this 32 is not angled enough, so even ships that don't overmatch 32 will get through this without any issues at all. So be careful. Be careful playing this thing. But a surprise to have so much fun in Shikishima. I hope you guys enjoyed, and definitely go check out Malta. He's one of the great content creators for this game. And you really should be looking at his videos for new ships. He has different opinions to mine. And as always, anytime there's new content, reviews, and that, you should get multiple opinions. Definitely recommend you go check out Malta. Again, links in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.